There are a ton of mount races in Guild Wars 2 that allow you to utilize the various mounts in the game and race against the clock and against other players in order to earn the fastest time. I talked about these races in my top 10 adventures in Guild Wars 2 video, where I ranked roller beetle races as the #1 adventure in the game, where I got a recommendation in the comments to highlight them all. So here's this video. I decided to highlight more than just the roller beetle races so we can explore all the races in the game. So let's get started. Starting off with number 10 is the Issnur Bay Race. This is a skimmer race located in the domain of Istan that starts by the Corsair Flotilla. It's a pretty simple race that basically takes you around the map a little bit as you have to navigate around the Corsair area, through the river that splits the map into two halves and out into the bay. All along the way there are a variety of mines you have to avoid and sand sharks that may cause problems to you. I feel like this is a race that not a lot of people really think of when they think of mount races. It's kind of just a random event that was part of this release that people did once or twice and never really looked back at it again except during the Return to Daybreak achievements. But for whatever reason, this race really sticks out to me. I think it's mostly because of the environment that we go through. Like you start out at the flotilla, then you are navigating through a river with rock walls on either side of you, then you come out into the bay with the boats sitting out there. It's just a cool route. In the number 9 spot is the Fortress of Jahai race. This event is called Reach the Treasure inside the Labyrinthian Inner Keep, and it's a pretty fun race in the Jahai Bluffs, where we don't interact a lot with the Fortress of Jahai outside of the initial story steps in this episode of Living World Season 4, but the most prominent part of this location in the open world, at least for me, is this race, where it's actually an interesting one that has a few different routes that changes with each race. You have to navigate past a lot of different enemies, figure out what route you need to take, and do it faster than everyone else. At least if you're competitive with this type of thing. Much like the previous spot, I just love the environment of this location. It's really cool to race through a labyrinth that is a massive fortress and to work your way past all the obstacles and reach the treasure room. The Fortress of Jahai is overall gorgeous, and it's nice to go inside of this area again. And this location deserves some bonus points for being a pretty important lore location in the Guild Wars universe. And the number 8 spot is the Tropic Valley Raceway, and this is the first of the roller beetle races that were introduced as a part of the roller beetle racing achievement category. Where this is a really cool achievement category that has you going all over the world to complete different races. You can earn a lot of rewards, many of which are bought with a special currency you get from completing races. Each race has leaderboards, and there's a bunch of other things I could say about them. But this specific race is not the only one from that achievement category that is present on this list, where this specific race, located in Brisbane Wildlands, is one of the harder ones from that category, where it's actually a pretty lengthy course that you have to go through, and there are a bunch of different obstacles you have to learn how to overcome all throughout the course. I personally had a lot of fun playing through this course a lot to learn how to do it so I could get the gold time and achievement. This course is basically a tour of the Brisbane Wildlands, and you go through so many different locations. I mean, it's basically a massive loop of the entire zone. You go from desert into jungle past the Issur and Savari, over near the Kryda entrance under the broken bridge that may lead to a future expansion, and then back to the start. It's just a fun course. In the number 7 spot is the Amnoon Race, and this is a classic. This is the first race introduced to Guild Wars 2 during the Path of Fire expansion, where I remember doing this event during the beta weekend for Path of Fire, and it was a ton of fun because people were kind of competitive with it. We really only had access to the basic raptor at that point, so there wasn't a lot of stuff going on with griffins and roller beetles and whatnot, where when Path of Fire released, it was still a ton of fun to do when it was fresh. Nowadays, it's kind of just a random event that newer players do when they reach Amnoon, but I have a lot of memories with it. Where one additional memory is how the Griffon mount was actually a secret mount that released with the Path of Fire expansion, where some players quickly learned that you could unlock this mount, and I was one of the first to do it back in the day. Where one of the first things I did was to bring the Griffon back to Amnoon and to do this race, where partway through there is a tower you can climb up with your Springer that will allow you to ride your Griffon all the way to the end of the race. Where this is partially possible because the checkpoints in most races are actually a lot taller than one might expect, so you didn't have to be super close to the ground. And I know this was kinda cheap, but it's still fun in its own right, and it is just a random event that starts in Amnoon. Where this course does indeed start in Amnoon, and it ends there as well, where you basically run around the western 1/3 of the Crystal Oasis, going around sand dunes, up fortifications, across bridges, and more. The environment around this course is fun, and the course itself is pretty cool. You got random choil going across the road. It's a little complex, but simple enough for a player's first mount race, and I just have a ton of memories with this race, and I've had a ton of fun doing it. In the number 6 spot is the Grothmar Skimmer Race. This is another skimmer race, but this time located in Grothmar Valley, where it is called the Grothmar Crater Circuit and takes place in Krakatorg's emergence zone, the location in the world where back in the original Guild Wars you could see Krakatorg sleeping, and nowadays it is a massive hole filled with water, where Aurene came around this area and branded it a bit, and now it's just a super pretty location, where the Metal Legion concert actually overlooks this area and some stuff from the concert actually falls off of the cliff and into the waters here. The gameplay itself is pretty standard for a Skimmer race, where you have to try to maximize your speed boost from being on water, carefully go over land, and navigate the obstacles through the entire course. You have access to a special action skill called Geyser Charge that will make your Skimmer move faster for a short time and is necessary to use in order to get a good time in this race. And the number 5 spot is the Wintersday Race, and this one is the reason why this video is coming out at this time of the year, because I needed some footage for it in order to complete the video, where this race takes place in Divinity's Reach and has you going all around the city. It's similar to the race during Lunar New Year that takes place in Divinity's Reach, but that one is on the honorable mentions list down in the description, where Divinity's Reach itself is a pretty iconic location and is home to the Wintersday Festival that starts every December. The city gets all decorated for the holiday, and this race gives you a great opportunity to go all around the city and explore it, even for new players, where you can get a rental raptor that will allow new players to participate even if they don't have any mounts unlocked, where I always have a good time doing this race a lot every time Wintersday comes around. Even the Foot Race annual achievement that requires you to complete the course quickly without using any mounts, which this achievement kinda reignites my pre-Pathifire brain, where you have to swap some weapons, traits, and skills to boost your movement speed while running around in the road, and then to swap them back when you are done. And the number 4 spot is the Grothmar Grand Tour. We are returning to Grothmar Valley, and we are returning to the Roller Beetle racing achievements. Kind of. With the initial release of the Roller Beetle racing achievements, we got a bunch of courses, all of the achievements, and the new special currency we can use to buy rewards. Since that initial release, we have only gotten one new course that expanded upon that idea, and it's this one, where the new achievements are separated from the original and are in the respective episode's achievement page, where the achievements themselves are a bit less expansive in comparison to the other courses, but you can get that special currency from completing this race, where because of that, a lot of people that go for those rewards will often include this race in their rotation. And the race, much like the name suggests, is a grand tour of Grothmar Valley, taking you all around the map. And this is one of the most beautiful maps in all of Guild Wars 2, where in large part because of that, this is one of the most beautiful races in the entire game. The entire course is gorgeous, and it's just a phenomenal environment to be in. The obstacles are pretty basic when it comes to racing. You're going through the map of Grothmar Valley, so you go through a bunch of different areas and have to deal with stuff like fences, where there are some good opportunities to do some air tricks in this race, which is fun. And the number 3 spot is Roll into Madness. This is another festival race, but this time it is Shadow of the Mad King, where there are 4 different races in this festival. 1 that takes place in the Labyrinth, and then 3 that take place in a special location called the Mad King's Raceway, which is the same location that Reaper's Rumble takes place in, where there are 3 different courses in here. Little Eddie's Bunny Bounce that was designed with a Springer in mind, Pumpkin Paradise that was designed with a Jackal in mind, and Roll into Madness that was designed with the Roller Beetle in mind. All 3 and the Labyrinth race are pretty cool, but Roll into Madness is my favorite of them all, where I think my love for this race comes down to 2 things. The first is the course itself. The obstacles are pretty fun to navigate around, and the course is overall a pretty challenging one, where I know a lot of people will practice this course a lot in order to get gold for the first time, and I was one of those. The second is the environment. Shadow of the Mad King is always great vibes, but I think this is my favorite environment from the entire festival. All of the cornfields, pumpkins, and other decorations come together to create an amazing atmosphere that is fun to roll around in. And the number 2 spot is Lakeside Loop. This is another race from the Roller Beetle Racing Achievements that is located in Gandharan Fields, and the course has you travel around a large chunk of the map, mostly around the central Lake Gandhar. And overall, Gandharan Fields is a pretty decent and good looking map, where this course is good because of that. But the main reason I have it so high on this list is because it is just so fun. I have a great time whenever I race through this course. There are a ton of opportunities to use your boost ability and gain a lot of speed to go around cool areas of the map. And then there are a few opportunities that allow you to do tricks in the air. I had a lot of fun coming through this area and completing this course when it originally came out, and I still come back to do it every now and then, which is kinda nice because it helps me stock up on racing medallions a tiny bit. But I highly recommend for everyone interested in the Roller Beetle to come to this race and to do it. And now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite mount race in the entirety of Guild Wars 2, and it is Ghostfire Run. This is actually a race that I featured in another top 10 video, Top 10 Adventures in Guild Race 2, where I went around the world and talked about all the adventures in the game, where in the number 1 spot I featured the Roller Beetle time trials, many of which were featured in this list, and in that video I mentioned that this one is my favorite, and that is still the case. Where this is another race that is part of the Roller Beetle Racing Achievement category, where you can unlock the racing medallion, special currency and whatnot, but Ghostfire Run is very similar to Lakeside Loop for me. Diasa Plateau is a pretty basic map from 2012, where the course and the environment you're going through is pretty nice, but the biggest reason why it is my favorite race is just because it is super fun. Something about this course really clicked for me, and I have an absolute blast whenever I go through it. It's probably the mount race that I have spent the most time doing, and it's my favorite mount race in all of Guild Race 2. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. As always, these are my personal favorites. I threw some honorable mentions down in the description, but feel free to let me know what your personal favorite is, even if I mentioned it in this video. Also feel free to check out Top 10 Adventures in Guild Race 2 that I mentioned earlier, or Top 10 future expansions for Guild Race 2, both of which you can see on your screen right now. I hope you are taking good care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.